Welcome, everybody, to the Worldwide Knicks podcast. Omar here, alongside with Rafa. One man down. Alex is out this week, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because we're going to be talking about Tom Thibodeau later this episode. And I always feel wrong when we talk about Tibbs when his staunchest defender is not here. Rafa, how are you
It
doing
always
tonight?
happens.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing good. I'm doing good. A bit tired from the heavy work today, heavy workload, but doing fine. Talking Knicks always gets me hyped up.
It's nice to talk Knicks when they're actually winning, right? Like that's the
Yes,
beauty
it's
when it's not bad stuff.
something new, man. It's something new. It's good. Let's enjoy it.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, so just kind of give you guys a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. And be talking a little bit about the Mitchell Robinson comments on social media. Going to be talking about something that Richard Jefferson said about Knicks fans. Talking a little bit about Tom Thibodeau in the playoffs, and close the episode out with we're just going to let Rafa go and talk about the gospel of RJ Barrett in the paint and how he's been very good at that. And then we'll of course close out every episode like we do with game picks. So let's talk a little bit real quick about the week that was. Knicks with 3 wins. All three of us look like idiots. We said 1 and 2. All of us, we only expected that win to come in Portland, and it came in Portland. It came against the Lakers, and it came against Denver yesterday, which was the most surprising one to me, Rafa. You assume Denver's coming in; they're number one team in the West. Knicks, have been kind of up and down. You didn't know if Jalen Brunson was going to be back, which he was, and they took care of business at home. Both centers did a great job on Jokic, and they got the W, which is a huge win because today on a back-to-back, the Nuggets beat the Nets, so that kind of created a little bit of separation for us. But how surprised were you that the Knicks beat the Nuggets there, Rafa? Before we jump into our topics.
I think I said last week that it could have been a close game.
Mhm.
Not knowing if Brunson would play or not can be a close game. Without Brunson, I think it's a loss. But with Brunson, it could be different. If Trey it was, and we fought back, we clawed, we fought against the one of the best teams in the league, and
Mhm.
the future three-time MVP, Nikola Jokic,
Future
and it's
three-time MVP, yeah, yeah.
there you go. So yeah, it was a pretty good win. I think it was. I was discussing with the friend on about the Knicks about this win. It was a team win. You don't have that guy scoring 40 points to get the win. It was a team win. The points were spread out. Guys were sharing it. The moments. So it was a pretty good effort from everyone. And obviously Brunson wasn't 100%.
Mhm.
Stretches he looked like 110%, but what it's Jalen Brunson, he always gives his all his 100% best. But yeah, man, it was. Dude, I'm such a believer in this team now that I think we can full force. I think we can beat the Nuggets. Maybe
Mhm.
not in a 7 game series, but who knows?
Yeah.
I am that confident right now.
Yeah, and they've looked great, especially like you said with Brunson on the floor when he's available. This team, I agree with that. I feel like they can compete with anybody. Um, yeah, and it's always great when you see Julius, RJ, and Brunson all kind of scoring 20 or more. The nice balanced attack. I think that's when this team is at its best. Great contributions from the role players and the bench players as well. So, but speaking of one of those guys, start off talking about Mitchell Robinson. So before the Denver game, there was some stuff going on. So Mitch went on Snapchat, was just saying how, oh, just out here doing cardio because he had a game where he was 0 points, 3 rebounds. It was not a good game for him. And he came back against Denver and played really well. But he went on Instagram later on, kind of retracting what he said and saying how he was kind of in the heat of the moment and he was frustrated. That yeah, sure, he could take a bunch of shots, but he knows his role on this team is to defend and to rebound and things of that nature. Thibodeau backed him up as well, which I thought was a really interesting comment from Thibodeau. I don't know if you saw this, Rafa, where he was basically saying, "Oh, he's he's still maturing. He got let his emotions get the best of him. That's how he uses his this is outlet he uses to vent. It was an incredibly mature answer. Well, not mature, I guess. Incredibly like understanding answer from Thibodeau that I just really wasn't expecting. Like for him to even like know what social media is, let alone be understand why his players would use it was kind of shocking to me. But
It's,
I guess what were your
it's understood.
thoughts?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was saying it's tips and not only tips, but understanding the new generation of players
Yeah.
that is around there. Just venting on Twitter on Instagram or whatever. To me, to be fair, you were to your I think your question was about the Mitch thing. I mean, it's Mitch. He does this and then is happy for 2 weeks, and then there's the game he's frustrated and because he doesn't get the ball, and he goes on Twitter about cardio again on Twitter, not on Instagram. Sorry, I think it's the first time they actually addressed it, like
Mhm.
Mitch apologizing and Tibbs talking about it. I don't know what the different approach was here, but I think it was the first time he actually Tibbs talking about social media and the players going on social media. I mean, and he gave the perfect answer to in the game against Denver. He played really well on Jokic, which
Yeah.
is a really tough matchup. I mean, you look at Mitch, you don't seem like Mitch is a guy who can guard Jokic effectively,
Hmm.
but he did a pretty good job. Well, no, his role he played defense, and he knows everybody trusts him for playing defense, and they know that the paint is his thing right there. He knows when we're breaking threes, it's basically assist to Mitchell Robinson out there on the offensive glass. So
Right.
I mean, I'm not against players showing frustration or saying something. I think I said it before. If a guy doesn't show any type of frustration, he doesn't care.
Right.
And if you say something or you mention it in some way, it's because you care, even if it's on social media. I mean, it's a nothing tweet. People moved on. It's not tweet again, Instagram post, but it's to me, it was a non-issue. It's like, oh, Mitch acting up again. It's okay. He was the same guy who was going on Instagram, posting money bags after he got his big contract. So I don't mind.
Yeah, I kind of had the same reaction. You know, I think Mitch is kind of a funny guy. I think it probably was kind of meant as a joke. I think he kind of looks at it that way. And he, to his credit, kind of owned up to it the following day. And to
I
his,
understand.
I guess this brings up the next thing, which, I think he kind of has a little bit of a good reason to be a little frustrated, I think, because none of these centers, well, actually, because of Hartenstein kind of getting the looks to get those little push shots from like 8 feet away, Mitch doesn't really get those
Well, yeah.
opportunities. Yeah. Now you could argue to and say, hey, Mitch isn't going to make those shots. Hartenstein's become very good at that shot. But I still think like he probably looks at that. And the minutes division between Hartenstein and Mitch are pretty equal right now.
Mitch.
They each, kind of like one guy will pay like 28 minutes one night, the other guy pay like 22 the next night, that kind of thing. So the minutes division is pretty equal, and a lot of times they have Hartenstein on the court late in the fourth. So if you're Mitch, you're probably thinking like, man, I'm not getting involved in the offense. I'm not playing it in these winning time minutes. So do you think that they should make an effort to get him more involved?
I mean, what can Mitch do offensively other than offensive rebounds
Mhm.
or other than alley-oops and dunks? I mean,
Right.
that's the thing. You can't really. He had I don't remember which game was it. He had a game. Someone posted him and giving the ball inside. He tried to move and missed it. I mean,
Mm.
I don't mind maybe just because we're such a heavy ISO team. Maybe oh, that's something different. Go, Mitch. Brick a shot. I mean, we have so many bricks from three. Why not a brick from the inside? I mean, the only guy you feel only plays with Mitch offensively, and he's better when Mitch is out there, is RJ Barrett, the double that two-man team. But the pick and roll. It's very simple basketball play, the pick and roll. It's like RJ looks to Mitch a lot. Um, but yeah, I don't think Mitch is not known for being a great defensive player. He's not a great passer. He's a much better defender, rim protector than Isaiah Hartenstein.
Mhm.
It's They're two different centers. They
Right.
give us different things, and that's what we asked for. We have Mitch for that rim protection, and we have Isaiah Hartenstein. I think is a better perimeter defender as a
Mhm.
big.
Yeah.
Not crazy amazing, but he's a bit better. He struggles protecting the paint, but he had that amazing block last night, which is last afternoon. Sorry, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
strange to say that afternoon game. Um, but yeah, I mean, they give us two different things. So it's normal. Mitch got the big contract. He's probably expecting to get more minutes, but he knows he's not going to get that offensive game, 30 points and 15 rebounds. He's not that guy. He will get a few offensive rebounds, a few alley-oops here and there, and that's it.
I think about. I'm trying to remember who said this, but I think it might have been like a former coach, like it might have been Larry Brown or something. And he was talking about how when he had, some centers that were like primarily rebounding defensive specialists, he's like, every now and then you got to give them a post play. You don't think it's a good play, but you're giving it to the player so they feel better about it. They feel more involved in the offense. Sometimes I think they need to do that with Mitch, specifically because he does a lot of dirty work. He did a great job on Jokic. He had his hands full with Nurkic against Portland. He helped out a lot against AD against the Lakers. So he gets a lot of these tough assignments, And for as much as we say that the center position is kind of dead, there are a lot of really skilled centers. He's trying to deal with Embiid whenever, we play the Sixers. And so that's hard work, rebounding, especially offensive rebounding, blocking shots, that's tough work. So give it to him 5 feet away from the basket and let him like work on some sort of post move or something and go for it, and let the chips fall where they may. Yeah, maybe those are 3 dead possessions throughout the course of a game, but I think in the long run, you get this guy's buy-in, and then he's not going on Snapchat or Instagram or Twitter or whatever his social media preference and saying things about how he's not getting involved, because it has to be frustrating for him as a player, and we've noticed that Mitch isn't the most mature guy. Okay. Yeah, like I mentioned this the other day. And you look at RJ, you look at Mitch, very close in age, right? But Mitch is so vastly more immature than RJ. RJ always knows what to say. Even when he's frustrated, you can never tell, and the only time he really looks frustrated is when he doesn't get a call, and but that's every player, right?
Every time.
Yeah, every time he goes to the paint. But Mitch, on the other hand, he's more of a, he's a vocal type of guy. That's just how he is, and he gets frustrated. And so I think you gotta, if you're a coach, right, you kind of have to manage the ego a little bit. Understand that he doesn't need a lot, but just dump the ball into him a couple times in the dunker spot and see what he can do with it. Whether it's, doing the layup, maybe he gets fouled, whatever the case may be. But don't just totally ignore him offensively and have his only offense be off of lobs and put back dunks. So I think they kind of Thibodeau and the rest of the coaching staff has to kind of strike that balance, right? Of being able to keep him happy while still having him give a bunch of effort. So he's looking at it as like, oh, I got a couple post touches and I got some points in. Now that juices him up, right, to be able to go that much harder defensively and on the glass.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. It's just keep guys happy some way. If it's 3 possessions, 2 possessions in a half
And
or
to
whatever,
be
I mean,
honest, Rafa, I feel the same way about RJ. Like, don't relegate this guy to only being an initiator when he's out there with the bench unit. Don't relegate him to being a spot up shooter. Every now, like you give Julius touches, you give Jalen obviously the bulk of the touches, you give quickly opportunities to initiate. Let RJ bring the ball up a couple times a game. Let him initiate a play in the offense, whether it's one of these dribble handoffs to Julius or Jalen or whatever the case may be, or let him get into a couple ISO looks if you guys have a good matchup. And I just think that just goes into it even more. There's such a delicate balance of you want to be able to kind of let everybody flourish and let everybody do their thing. And I think that
True.
that's something that the team should look to continue to do or start doing. Actually, I guess I should say
Mhm.
more in the future to keep these guys, keep them happy with playing here and happy with their roles.
To be fair, the RJ thing is he wasn't playing very well offensively. His shot wasn't
Mhm.
falling. He was struggling again. So I think it's only natural that even himself he tries to back down from taking those many shots
Mhm.
or trying to take a shot. Why am I forcing shots right now when the shot is not falling? When Randall and are hitting everything.
Mhm.
So apparently, Brunson went down and he is averaging 24 points or 23 point something points per game ever since Brunson went down and came back as well these
Mhm.
last couple of games. So his shot is falling again. The paint, we will talk about this, but the production is there. So it's only natural if the shot is falling there, that's another weapon we can use even with Brunson and Randall on the floor. Just to rest up Randall and Brunson. So it's only the moment the shot wasn't falling, so let other guys cook. And if RJ is consistent with that, and if he can hit a three to save his life now, is it's a whole different offensive game we have.
Yeah, and I guess bringing it back to Mitch, I would just love to see him just hit a little like baseline 10-footer, just give the threat of that. Obviously everybody talks about the 3-point shooting videos and stuff like that, whatever. I don't care about that. Like give me like a foul line jumper that you could hit. It doesn't have to be all the time. I'm not asking you to be Joel Embiid, right? Just every now and then if they sag off of you and you got that free throw line jumper and you could hit that consistently at a pretty decent clip, that just makes
Yeah.
our
I mean,
offense that much more dynamic. Not to say it's not dynamic as it is, but um, I
if he
think,
shoots with that free throw arc, he doesn't have. I don't want to see those shots.
yeah, I mean, even if
It's
it's something
I
like,
mean,
again, like that push shot that Hartenstein does, like something that is going to be other than a dunk. And I think that would just adding more complexity to his game is one, going to be good for this team. Two, good for his career in the long run because eventually when he gets over 30, in a number of years here, he's going to lose some of that athleticism, lose some of that recovery speed. So he's going to have to be able to do stuff to still be able to make rosters and be a viable piece in the league. So hopefully we see more out of Mitch, if not this year, in the coming years. So we'll see what he does with that. I kind of want to shift gears here and talk a little bit about something that Richard Jefferson mentioned. Obviously Knicks fans have a certain type of relationship with Richard Jefferson. He's always
can't
critical
believe
of the Knicks.
we are at the time of this podcast we are talking about Richard Jefferson. It's unthinkable, unfucking thinkable.
So
Go ahead.
there's a there's a soundbite that kind of got out that Jeff RJ was walking through a tunnel and a Knicks fan asked why he hates the Knicks or whatever. And he had a very interesting comment where he's like, y'all hate y'all, where talk about how Knicks fans are really super critical of any player that plays for them and that they're basically kind of miserable. So my question to you, Rafa, is does he have a point?
Is there any fan more critical than the fan of the team of the well, you're a fan of a team, basically. Let's try
Mhm.
and try it like this. You will always be more critical of your own team because you want the best. And you actually watch the games. Just you don't watch the games you're just the game you're commentating on. Like, you watch the games, you have more opinion, you know the players more, and well, obviously you think you're GMs as well because you know the guy who to trade and everything, obviously, but you'll be more able to criticize your own team because you want to win. Screw the other ones. You'll have probably better opinions about the other teams because you can be objective. With your own team, you can't. I mean,
Mhm.
you it's I think it's absolutely natural that you can hate on your team more. Like we said about this many times about the Knicks. We have a young team. I don't know why people are complaining about the Knicks because we have a young team with great good players, but everybody still complains. But
Yep.
they say, oh, look at that team. They have young players and they're winning as well. It's the same as the Knicks, dude. Why are we complaining about the Knicks if they're praising what the other team did? So it's exactly the same situation, but your team you want to be better than the rest. So you will criticize more your team. I think that Jefferson comment applies to every fan base. And the Knicks maybe are we're more hungry to win because we haven't won well since Clyde Frazier was still a player.
Mm.
So obviously we're hungrier and we're the New York Knicks, the big the Mecca and everything. We want to be a good team because we're in a big market. We want to be a big market team. So that's the pressure there. We can't go mid. We can't have to go top.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it takes time. To me, it's
So,
nothing.
Ralph, I'm gonna disagree with you slightly here. Um, I think we are worse than other fan bases. And the reason I say that is this. In the past 3 years, we've had two winning seasons, and it appears 2 out of 3 years making the playoffs. Okay. Considering in a vacuum for a team that's been largely inept for about 23 years. Okay. And you go on social media or forums or whatever, and you got people saying the type of things you would be saying if we were like a Blazers fan. You know, they're having a disappointing season. They're probably not going to make the play-in. You would think we were them because people in Knicks fans a lot of times want to prioritize their agendas, right? Like they can't support the success of Julius Randle because they said they wanted to trade him, or before the season. They can't support RJ Barrett being a good NBA player and getting over 20 a night because they really wanted the Knicks to go after X, Y, or Z player, or they didn't want them to sign them to that number. It's all about kind of the narrative thing, right? And
Sure.
like, I know I live in Detroit, as you know, and I know a lot of Pistons fans. So when I talk to them about the Pistons right now, they they're just kind of like, yeah, we're rebuilding, but I love this team. I think we could contend in a year or two, blah, blah, blah. Like they say that, they believe that. We may know that that probably isn't the case, that they're probably a little further way out, but they're not going to be like just the other day, we had some fans on there talking about Alonzo Trier is better than Emmanuel Quickly. Like this is a team that is vying for a fifth seed, potentially a fourth seed in the Eastern Conference. And you're talking about a player who's been out of the league for like 3 years. Okay. And so I just feel like we're so critical. Find me a player on this roster that the Knicks fans are not critical of. At some point in this year, people have shit on Julius. People have called Jalen Brunson the ball hog, who's the best point guard that we've had since Mark Jackson. They've called RJ a bunch of things. They said that he's not worth the money. They said he's garbage and we should get rid of him. Should have been the Donovan Mitchell trade, whatever. They talk bad about Mitch. We've shitted on Isaiah Hartenstein on this podcast. People call Quickly a ball hog, said he's not that good. Grimes, they say he's overrated. It's just like every single player up, and even Josh Hart, who has done nothing but win since he's gotten here, even he gets criticism because like, oh, whoa, he's just monopolizing Grimes' closing minutes. Like, do you hear yourself talking? Like you're saying, oh, I'm so mad that my team is winning because I really wanted Quentin Grimes out there in the fourth quarter. Like, who cares? Your team is fucking winning. And Grimes is still getting minutes. It's not like he's getting 5 minutes a game or something, right? So I do think we're a little bit more critical. And if we like turned it over, and if we had any other team any other year that was like a 4 or 5 seed in 2 out of 3 years for again a franchise, like look at the Kings. Kings fans has nothing bad to say this year. Why? Because they're used to 15, 16 years of ineptitude, and they finally have a team that's going to get a home first round series in the playoffs. And they love Sabonis, they love Fox, they love all these guys, and here we are, still not sure how we feel about Julius Randle, not sure how we feel about RJ Barrett, because we're so addicted as a fan base to narratives, to agendas, to all this stuff, because And again, because it's like big market New York City, well, we deserve a championship team because we're the biggest market. We've been waiting for so long. Like there are a bunch
That's
of teams
it.
that have never won
Yeah,
a title. They don't
that's
deserve
it.
to have good players. They don't deserve to want their team to win. There's a there's a narrative thing, there's an entitlement thing to me, and I think that's the problem with our fan base. Now, is that maybe magnified by Twitter? Sure. But I think there's a
Yeah,
decent enough
absolutely.
amount of fans where you can make the argument that, yeah, we are maybe a little bit overly critical and negative of our players. Maybe that's why we had the Charlie Ward curse to begin with, because the pressure was too much from these fans. I don't know, like, I don't know, am I off base there? But that's kind of like the vibe I
No,
get.
I agree. I agree with it. I'm not. I wasn't saying that we are exactly the same as other teams, as
Sure.
other fan bases. It's like, and you nailed it. It's I think we kind of met halfway here with the big market team. We have big market team examples. They get the free agents and they continue. Oh, the players are gone. A few years later, they're back with players signing free agency because they can attract those free agents and they can be contenders. Like in every 5 years, they're contending again. If it's a thing, it's a and the Knicks we didn't have that. We don't have it. We we discussed this before. We're a big market team that need to build like a smaller market team. I mean, can you imagine that what the Knicks having the same were if the Knicks were in the same situation as the Detroit Pistons,
Mhm.
it's we wouldn't be happy because
Right.
oh these guys can win. We need to trade this for the star for the star for the star for the star. We're stars for so long here in New York. And it's like the pressure is much bigger. Fans put the pressure on
Let
themselves.
me
Like we
interrupt
have
you
to
real
win.
quick, Rafa. Do you
No, go ahead.
consider
Go
either
ahead.
Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle a quote unquote star at this point in the NBA?
I mean, they're getting there. I mean,
I mean, it's
if
hard to
think
argue
with
against Brunson this year the way he's played at the position, and Julius is now a
yeah,
two-time All-Star. So
the
it's tough,
what
right?
the thing I was going for is the consistency.
Hmm.
So if Brunson from here on out can still play at this same level,
Yeah.
he can be or even elevated in the playoffs especially, and that's the thing that doesn't make them they're not stars. Playoffs, they're
Yeah,
not.
to
I
be
mean,
determined, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing
Mhm.
that the NBA makes the stars, getting it done in the playoffs,
Right.
and they showed off in the playoffs. I mean, Doncic, well, he didn't make it in the playoffs. He didn't win a title, obviously, but the
Got to a
guy when he
conference
was
final.
losing,
Yeah.
yeah, he went get to conference final, but and before when he lost, he went down swinging hard, and
Hmm.
the team, oh, he's alone. So
That's like the Donovan Mitchell thing,
yeah,
right? Never really had playoff success
exactly.
that much in Utah, but eventually, but he was putting up points in the losing effort.
There's yeah, they're stars or they're great players, but
Hmm.
they're not the level. The playoffs make that player the distinguished star or a superstar, which I
Yeah.
term well, yeah. But they're getting there. If Brunson can maintain this style of play, if Randall can maintain, because Randall is a two-time not MVP then.
I
I
wish.
wish a two-time All-Star, but it was good. Well, bad year, good year, bad year, good year. So he's
He needs consistency. Yeah.
freaky. Yeah, I think to me, a star needs to be good or great consistently. Like this year, next year, the next year, because the talk I can just imagine the talk during the summer is can Julius Randle be the same as last year, or he will revert back
Hmm.
because it's up and down. Can Brunson maintain the level? If 2 or 3 seasons of the same level, okay, these guys are stars. They can get in the playoffs consistently. They just need maybe a little bit more to win a championship.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if Julius Randle had that, maybe it was a better 3-point shooter, or the clutch shots, he was a bit better. I know he hit a massive shot against the Heat, but a bit better on that closing stages, arguably he would be a star.
The thing too, I look at it is like I feel like a lot of Knicks fans use their lifetime of watching the team
Yeah.
as the barometer of where we are today. Like, oh, I remember when we signed Andrea Bargnani. I remember when we signed Joakim Noah. Like they remember all these bad contracts, right? Like I think
Yeah.
friend of the pod, Mario, he was kind of retweeting this thing about who's the worst signing your team has ever had. He threw out Jerome James, but there's like so many people you could go with. Like there's people who bringing up Travis Knight from like the late '90s, and it's just like there's so many ways you go. But if we look at the Leon Rose era, they've largely hit on just about every draft pick. Trevor Keels this year to be determined. He looks like he should have stayed in college
Yeah.
another year, but to be
Yeah.
determined. Yeah, they whiffed on Fournier, but this is the same front
And
office.
Kemba.
Yeah, and Kemba. We like last year was bad. We get that, but
Yeah.
acquiring Brunson was good. Randall has been a net positive for this team, and they re-up their guy in RJ. He's criticisms aside, he still performed well, and I think he's living up to his contract. When you compare, like his number was kind of somewhat similar in the same ballpark as DeAndre Hunter. I think he's having a much better year than DeAndre Hunter. So that's what you got to compare it against. You can't compare it to Zion and Ja because their contracts are different. They're getting paid supermax deals, So I
And
think that
Zion, with so much you picked on Zion, you talked about Zion with all those injuries. Is he living up to that contract? Oh, when he
absolutely
plays, he
not.
changes, but he's always injured.
Yeah, yeah, he's not
Is
living
is
up
he
to it.
living up?
No.
I mean, yeah. I'm not saying Zion is a bad player, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah, the injuries you have to take them into account.
yeah,
But the thing goes, it's just like this fan base is just wants to shit on this front office, get rid of this, get rid of that. And we're going to talk about Thibodeau in a second here. This is a guy who's been here 3 years. 2 out of 3 years have had winning seasons. And then you talk about the executives and what they've brought in. There hasn't been any drama in the garden. Like I feel like we're just living in the past, and that's why we get so mad. Why we get so mad about not getting Donovan Mitchell. Like, oh, there's just like what we whiffed on Kyle Lowry. And it's like, no, it's not because you got a player. You can make the argument Jalen Brunson has played better than Donovan Mitchell this year. You can make that argument. You could also maybe keep the other way, but you could have that discussion. So it's not like there's a fall off, right? And yeah, so that's what kind of irks me, man, is like we want and we feel like we deserve a Michael Jordan. And we've never had one. And it's why Ewing has such a sour relationship with this fan base because well, he never won the big one, got to the finals twice, but he never won the big one, which speaks a little bit to ring culture, which has been like a big topic on in the NBA circles in recent weeks. But yeah, I just kind of feel like we are a little too harsh on our players. We kind of set them up to fail, I think, because it goes back to when they get drafted. Well, I wanted to take this guy, and see, look what he's doing over there in San Antonio, and like that's like Obi was set up to fail because of the Halliburton thing, right? Everybody wanted Halliburton, and he didn't get him, and it's just so I just feel like we could tone it down a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
team guys, and I agree with the narratives we mentioned before. It's guys want to win,
Mm-hmm.
or they want to be the team to be successful, but
Yeah,
in the way they want it to happen, or through
exactly.
the draft, or with this player, or with that player. And I mean, I mentioned before, I would love for RJ Barrett to be the number one guy scoring, dropping 30 points on every game.
Yeah.
But he's not that. I'm not going to shit on Randall or Brunson or anyone else for taking those minutes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's the Knicks first, not the player narrative or the way of constructing the narrative.
Addicted
I
to
mean,
being right. That's the thing. They're all addicted to being
yeah,
right.
yeah,
But
exactly. That's it.
we can put a pin in that. Let's mention Thibodeau a couple times there. Let's talk about him a little bit more. So Alex, phone us in if you want to chime in here. But so in these a
I,
random
I
Eastern
always feel
Conference.
dirty, man. I always feel dirty we talking about Tibbs when Alex isn't here.
I
Yeah,
like
well,
whenever that happens, he kind of hits us with the cliff notes the next day in the chat after he hears the episode. I always
I'm
like that
waiting. I'm
to make
already
sure that
waiting.
we addressed what we needed to be addressed. That's good. That's how we know we're doing a good job, right? Um, but yeah, a random Eastern Conference executive has said that Tom Thibodeau is going to be a liability for the Knicks in the playoffs. That his style of coaching and the way he adjusts and does things that lineups and things of that nature is going to hurt the team when it comes into winning in the playoffs. So, first off, do you think that this is feasible? Is this a legit thing, or are people just kind of grasping at straws?
I mean, first of all, I love these reports about unknown general
Unnamed
manager,
executive. Yeah, yeah.
unknown team official. I mean, like, great. That's amazing. That's not pushing a narrative at all.
Right.
I mean, why wouldn't it work? I mean, normally teams shorten their rotations in the playoffs. We already shortened rotations, so players will be okay. I know what's how many minutes I will play, so they don't need to adapt to that. I mean, I don't know. We'll play the same style. We'll play the same basketball. It's ISO heavy league. It's the I mean, we're fighters. We fight out on defense. I mean, obviously we have games when we shoot terribly and we throw the games away, but it's like every team does that. So I don't know where is coming from. It's just to shit on Tibbs before or in the for people to go, haha, I told you Tibbs will fail. I knew Tibbs would fail. He failed in Chicago.
Yeah.
Haha.
You
Yes, against the
mentioned it,
Miami Big Three.
Rafa. You
Yeah.
mentioned that. The shooting is what's going to undo this team in the playoffs. That's what's going to be the problem. Like
Yeah.
we on that losing streak we just had, we couldn't make anything. So if that happens in the playoffs, yeah, we're done. My thing is, I feel like they're holding 2 years ago against him. They're like, oh, see, everybody was so high on the Knicks, but then we go into the playoffs against Atlanta and they got their pants pulled, and I'm just like, first of all, every year is different. You can't just speak in absolutes like that. Second of all, it just totally discounts the Jalen Brunson effect. Like that playoff series, you were dealing with young Emmanuel Quickly and Alfred Payton as your point guard, and old Derrick Rose. So yeah, no shit. Now you have a guy who should have been an all-star manning the point, and we saw it against Denver. When it comes down to it, and they need a bucket, Jalen Brunson is the guy who's going to get them that bucket. Period. And to act like that Thibodeau's somehow going to hold them back, like with what? Like how is he going to hold them back? Like is he going to? Well, because of like his offensive schemes, like you just said that, like it's an ISO league. It gets even more half court ISO in the playoffs, and that's why like a lot of people aren't so high on Memphis, right? Because they don't really have much of a half court game. They're more of a run and gun style, and we have a half court game because we have two guys who can isolate, actually three guys. If you throw in RJ into that mix, he can even throw quickly in there too. Four guys who could isolate at a pretty high level. So I just don't see it. It feels like they're just trying to stir the pot into my next question, which is if the team flames out in the playoffs, like let's say they draw either Cleveland or Philly and they get swept, right? And is that an incentive to move on from in the coaching position, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, getting swept against the Cavs or Boston or whatever, wherever we
Mm.
get, I think it's way too heavy. Even with the season we had, getting swept in the playoffs would be a
Oh
fail.
yeah. Mhm.
Absolute fail. I mean, the way we're playing, if we get swept, I don't know. It depends on how the front office will look at that. Look at this and how okay, this is what the team can give with Tibbs. We had a they can give him another season, but then it's the same thing. After swept in the he gets swept in the playoffs, gets into the team, it gets into the new season. Things don't start very well, and he's on a hot seat again.
Mhm.
I mean, or you go with that same situation. This if we get swept, by the way.
Right, right.
if we get or we just okay, Tibbs has built it. We know the foundation we have. Obviously, being swept it was terrible, and we can get to the next step. We because we traded for Josh Hart, so this is a fail,
Hmm.
and we move on from the coach. I mean, end of cycle. Not a you're fired, you suck, but okay, this is a cycle. You finished your job with the New York Knicks with it that we wanted. If we, I mean, obviously it's different getting swept by the Cavs or losing in Game 7. It's different. We slug it out, and so it's I mean, if Doc Rivers failed miserably with the Sixers many times and he's still there, obviously Tips can
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. Right.
I
Right.
mean, at least if we lose first round or second round, but not getting swept, I think Tips can stay here for another season at least. Just solidify that building built those building blocks. Only if it's an epic disaster, man. It's Tips gone now.
Here's the way I look at it. If they get swept, let's say they draw Cleveland, and they get swept by Cleveland, and I think then the front office says, "Oh, well, we really did need a superstar, right?" So then maybe they try and go get one, and then they think, "Is Tom Thibodeau going to be the coach that's going to be able to handle a superstar?" Let's say, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Let's say it's Damian Lillard, hypothetically, right? Just whatever, and you trade for Dame, and you like that's a win now move, whatever, and you say, yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to handle it. So I think they maybe go elsewhere because they face so much. It's like, well, we did it your way, and we end up in 2 first-round exits with one playoff game win, and in between, this year and 2 years ago. And I think, though, on the flip side, if they do, let's say they draw Cleveland. Let's say they beat Cleveland in 6 or 7, and then they get Milwaukee in the next round, and hard fought. Maybe they lose in 5 or 6 to Milwaukee. I think they keep him then because they say, hey, we added the player. We got to the second round. Perfect. Even if they lose in 7 in the first round, I think they still think that way. It's like, hey, let's get another offseason with Jalen, Julius, and RJ. Quickly, he's going to take another step. We'll work on re-signing him. We have our nucleus together. We have a draft pick from Dallas. See what we could do with it. And then just kind of go from there. So I think it's a really interesting inflection point for the team right now when it comes to the coach, because if you get embarrassed in the first round, I think he's gone. Because they're looking at it, because we've said it before, he runs hot, he has a shelf life, and I think his shelf life is 3 to 4 years. So we're right around that point. And so that's where it's going to become a thing. And who they would go with after that, I don't know. But
I don't know.
Yeah, no, none of us know that. But I think it's
Johnny Bryant. You think they would go with Johnny Bryant in that situation? I mean, I don't know. Do you think they would go in team and bring someone up, or they would go and get someone?
I mean, the idea is if you go in team, he knows the players already, built a relationship, well respected already, and they could pick up where they left off, and maybe he just has some new ideas.
Yeah, that's the thing is, because I don't think after this season right here, even if we get smoked in the first round, I don't think Tibbs will be a just let's cut with everything we've done in the past. It's like okay, it's fresh ideas but continuation. In that sense, it makes sense to get a guy who knows the players and who can build on what Tibbs has built, and not come in and do an entire different thing, different offense, different everything.
Do you have like an external person that you would want more than anyone right now?
I don't know.
The only name that has ever made sense to me is Ty Lue, and just because he's a really good coach, and he's very good, and I think he knows how to manage, ball dominant players. He's done it. He did it in Cleveland with Kyrie and LeBron. He's doing it with the Clippers right now with Paul George and Kawhi. And I think he's the type of guy you would want if you decide to move on. I think like we mentioned earlier, Thibodeau has had 2 winning seasons in 3 years. It's hard to just say, get the fuck out of here after that, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
As much as you and I have both criticized him, as much as Knicks fans criticize him, the numbers are the numbers. You know, he has a winning record as a Knicks coach, 20 some odd games over 500. And it's, you know, it's something I think they need to have a good showing in the first round to show growth. Win more than one game in the first round, right? If you go out in 6 or 7, that's okay, just as long as they weren't blowouts and the team was playing well. But you know, I mean, the ideal thing would be to win a series, but
If the loss comes to the Cavs,
it's tough.
it's absolutely devastating to
Mm.
Tibbs, the front office, everything. It's absolutely devastating if we lose the Cavs like that.
I mean,
Seven games, six games, 4 games. It's
in that situation, you almost want to prefer being the 6th seed, right? You know, like just from that
yeah,
perspective, because like, yeah, we talked before we started recording about not wanting to play Philly just from a visual spectator perspective, but I think you could stomach losing to MVP candidate Joel Embiid more easily
yeah,
than you
absolutely.
could to losing to the guy who you almost got in the summer. You know,
The narratives
the
would
narrative thing,
be
right? All over
unbearable.
again.
It's incredible. It's oh my god.
I think the title for this episode is going to be narratives, narratives, narratives. I think that's a good one. Let's
Oh my god.
let's close this out on a high note though. Let's talk a little bit about
Ooh,
RJ. So I'll be completely honest here, Rafa. I've really, really, really have been frustrated by RJ at a lot of points during the year, right? Like
absolutely. Yeah.
every time that like I said this on a other pod recently where like I'm at the point now where a lot of times when he shoots threes, I don't think they're going in, you know, and
Yeah.
it's the shooting's been rough. But lately, I feel like the last 5, 10 games, he's really, really improved this efficiency inside the arc when he's going attacking the rim. And you're seeing stuff. You're seeing like nice Euro step moves, bracing himself for
Yeah.
contact and being able to finish and follow through. Be good at the line as well when he does get to the line. So, what are you making of the success in the paint? What are you seeing from RJ right now?
A lot more confidence. It's
Mm-hmm.
that's always to me. That's always his problem: lack of confidence and finishing, shooting the three. I mean, he's the guy who looks. He's okay. You know he's not confident in his shot and everything he does, but he looks like he's confident when he's doing it. It's
Mm.
weird, but you
Yeah, yeah.
know, okay, because we watch so many games, you know that he is not confident. And when you talked about the Euros and the spins and the patience and everything, that's confident RG. That's knowing the shots going in. Against Denver, late fourth quarter, attacking Nikola Jokic, that's confident RG right there. I mean, guys take shots. I mean, that shot over Jokic what was a bit of a circus shot by RJ. There's a fade from Julius Randle, which the fade went out. I was like hands on my head and like, okay, it went in, great. It's that's confidence shots. The guys know I'm hot, I will make it.
Mm-hmm.
And when RJ isn't hot, it's frustrating. The misses, and we can look at the non con the all the contact that he gets, not getting calls, and that frustrates him as
Why
well.
why do
But
you think he doesn't get those calls? Because I feel like Jalen gets the calls because you could say because he's small and he could kind of flop a little bit. Julius, I feel like 75% of the
some of
times
them,
he's been getting calls, you know? He's getting a little bit of that
I
all-star treatment. I mean, why do you think RJ doesn't get them still?
I don't know, man. It's so weird. Some of those calls, okay, it could be a foul, but I'll pass not having a foul. The contact, they both jump, that's okay. But some of those calls are egregious. Like, what? How? How can you not call? The guy has a bone sticking out, and you're making calling anything. It's ridiculous. Those calls, man. But I mean, there's no reason for it. I mean, if it's a foul, call it. Oh, it doesn't affect the shot. Yes, it does. Just call it, please. Just be consistent one day. But I think he learned how to change that. He learned, okay, they're not making they're not going to call this a foul. So I will try to play through it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it make it an and one. If it's not an and one, it's a basket. I think that's where he improved the most because when he finishes when he uh sends the contact, He went like, "Hey!" and threw the ball
Hmm.
up. He misses it because he's waiting for the foul. But now he's okay. I'm not playing for the foul. I'll play to finish it, and he's been much better at it. And he's been able to not get the primary assist, but that hockey assist or that thing that pass gets the offense going with that penetrating pass out and the ball moves around.
Hmm.
That's him initiating the offense with that penetration because when he's finishing like that, because he's finishing at an elite level right now, this is amazing. I mean, they will need to protect his that type of penetration, and so they will leave well, and that's the problem. They will leave the shooters open, which is we know the shooters open with the Knicks is well, it is what it is. It's you're talking about RJ's 3-point shooting. It's going to be a miss. I mean, there's games when I always feel, oh, there's a 3-pointer. Oh, that's a miss
Hmm.
for every Nick out there.
Yeah,
Every Nick out there. It's ridiculous.
we're not a good shooting team. I
So,
mean, that's the thing, right?
no, and we're not a good shooting team, and you have guys that need good shooters around him.
Right. Yeah.
RJ needs the shooters around him. Brunson needs it as well. Brunson is the guy who's been able to make more shots for his zone, but he needs those shooters. Randall needs the shooters. I mean, but he's not. Grimes' shot isn't falling. Josh Hart is open. He doesn't shoot. I wish he would shoot a lot, a bit more.
Yeah, I feel like there's at least
Um,
once or twice a
yeah,
game where he gets an open wing three and he just doesn't even
yeah,
take it. Yeah.
yeah. His mentality is to help. He's a team player. He's not going to make the shot, but sometimes he needs. It feels like every time he shoots the 3-pointer, it goes in. So please
Mhm.
continue. We need that shooting,
Right, right, right.
man. I mean, have Fournier's ability to I'm open, I shoot,
Mhm.
but actually be a better player. Josh Hart just have that shot selection better.
Yeah, with when bring it back to RJ, you know, I love to see him showing adjustments in his game, you know, like he used to be where it's just like, oh, he was just going to get to the rim and like the percentages were real bad. And, you know, part of that, of course, is not getting foul calls. But now, like you mentioned, he is absorbing the contact and he's taking a more makeable shot instead of just kind of flailing the arms up and doing some sort of circus shot. And I think kind of like you see that from Jalen, you see that from Julius, and now you see it from RJ. And that's something great to see. And yes, the shot has not been falling. I think he was like over three or over four from three against Denver. And you know, I'm hoping that it comes around. You know, RJ's a streaky shooter, so he's gonna have times where he's making everything, and he's gonna have times where it's just not going in, and he's in one of the slumps where it's not going in right now. And
I mean,
but it hasn't deterred him is the important thing. Like he's still attacking the basket with confidence, like you mentioned, you know, with force and being able to showcase the moves, right? Being able to kind of do a little up and under, doing a little Euro step, you know, kind of avoiding the contact, contorting the body a little bit, and still being able to finish with the left hand. And that's incredibly encouraging to see because those are momentum plays. Those are plays that keeps the offense going. You know, a lot of times, you know, you'll see maybe Julius miss a couple threes in a row. Maybe Brunson kind of misses a couple shots. Being able to just give it to RJ and let him go eat is incredibly
yeah,
important to me.
absolutely. And he I mentioned that him being able to score and to be a threat on offense helps us a ton for the playoffs we just discussed. I mean,
Yeah.
he's another player who can have the ball in his hands instead of just Brunson and Randall and Quickly, who has been a little, a lot more streaky now. He doesn't feel like he was is up and downs now. He was so consistent for a stretch, a few weeks, and now he's has games when he's really good or effective with the ball in his hands. Other games he's not
Emmanuel
so
quickly
good. But
experience, man. That's
but
what it is. You know, he's a streaky shooter.
it's it's growing pains, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the guys developing, knowing their moments, knowing their spots. It's not comparing players instead of just accepting what the player we have and waiting for him to develop. No, he's Maxi is better than him, or that guy is better. We should trade for him. I mean, can we wait to get to develop, have a little bit more
See what happens, right?
consistency? Because because that's it. It's we have Brunson, who's 25 or 26,
Mhm.
Randall, 27 or whatever, 28.
28, yeah.
And the other guys, I mean, one of the oldest Knicks on the team, oldest Knicks, or the longest tenure on the with the Knicks is probably Mitchell Robinson, who's
He
24.
is the longest tenured Nick right now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 24. So
Hmm.
he's still immature. He's 24.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, and Hart is a more experienced guy to help these young guys as well. It's our veterans are 28. Hartenstein is 23 or 24 as well. I
Crazy how
mean,
young he is.
we're
Been in the league for
yeah,
quite a while.
we're it's a we're a young team and we'll be streaky. I mean, it's people want to be patient. Oh, the growing the Grimes minutes for growing. Yeah, the other guys are growing too quickly. RJ especially, and Mitch is still growing. Like we talked about with Tips
Yeah.
saying he's still maturing. Well, they are still maturing. I mean,
Hmm.
were you this mature when you were 24? I
Hell
wasn't. It was
no.
6 years ago for me. I mean, 7 years ago for me. So I wasn't that mature. So
Hmm.
it's things change. Like give him time to develop all of them. Just give RJ time as well to get his shot selection. I mean, the threes he's taking, it's not like he's forcing the 3-point shots. Like he's open. I
They're
will
good
shoot
looks.
it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, they're good looks. They're not going in. I mean,
You got
it's
to allow this guy to develop. That's the thing.
yeah,
Like people are just expecting him to just wake up one morning and all of a sudden he's a superstar, and that's just not how it works. You're not going to be, it's gradual steps for him. And every year he's improved something. I think you look at years past and how he is now at the rim, never been better. And if
yeah,
your only takeaway from RJ this year was he got better at attacking and finishing at the rim, anybody would sign up for that because that was one of our biggest criticisms of him last year, right? So
yeah.
hoping to see more of that from RJ in the future. Good.
To just to point out that his defense ever since the All-Star break has been a lot better. It's been gradually
Yeah, yeah,
going
yes.
up. More, he's more active on defense, trying to. He loses himself, yes, on defense, but He's trying a lot more right out there. At least he's got it. Even when his shot isn't falling or he's not playing any off a part of the offense, his defense is okay. He can hold himself at least. Not he's not a liability right now,
Right.
which was another issue up to this point.
Yeah. Again, that's more improvement. Things we love to see from RJ. Hoping they continue, especially with the playoffs right around the corner.
My
Let's.
narrative right here.
There you go. Let's make some game predictions. So this coming week, they're all kind of gluttoned up. No real weekend games this upcoming week. I think it's probably because of March Madness. But Monday, tomorrow, we got Minnesota at the Garden. Then on Wednesday, visiting Miami. And then Thursday on a back-to-back in Orlando. So a little bit of a Florida back-to-back there. So what do you got there, Rafa? What do you think's going to happen?
Hmm. I want to say a positive thing, but since we're these last 2 weeks, we have been so terrible predicting things. It's absolutely the opposite happens. Um, I will say we'll go 1-2, just to want the opposite. I mean, no, I can't. I think we can go 3-0 in this stretch or two and
Okay.
one. I think the Minnesota game is it's a weird game because I feel Minnesota is a very weird team right now
Hmm.
after the trade with D'Angelo Russell and everything. They're weird. The Magic, I think, is one of those teams we need to win. I mean, I think they learned from the Hornets game
Hmm.
and they will come out guns blazing and beat the Magic. And the Heat game, that's the big one for me this week.
Hmm.
It's in Miami. It's they will want that win back. That last win next this that last game the Knicks won. The Heat will want it back. They're trying to catch us in the standings, so it will be a very difficult game for the Knicks to win there. I think environment, everything, the thing, everything will surround that game. A lot of pressure there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1 as well. I think they drop either Here's what I think happened. I think they beat Minnesota because Cat's still out. Edwards has like a weird injury. He might play, but
Oh, that's right. He's
hmm,
injured, right?
he
Oh
has like an
yeah.
ankle injury, I think, the other day. And they have a bunch of other players who are going to be missing. They're questionable for the game as well. So that feels winnable against the Wolves. I think what's going to happen, either they're going to go all out against Miami and just be too tired for the back-to-back against Orlando, or they're going to lose to Miami and then be mad and beat Orlando. So I think they split that back-to-back one way or the other.
Yeah.
If my guess would be that they beat Miami but lose to Orlando. Just because I feel like every game with the Heat is a fucking war. It's a grind, and it takes so much out of you. And to have to be have another game the next night, that's going to take a lot. And
Yeah.
the Magic are a young team. They got a lot of interesting players. So
That would be an amazing series in the playoffs. The Knicks with the Heat. I mean, that would be a series to remember
yeah,
or
every
to
game
cry
this year has
about.
been
I
super
don't know.
close. Been very very
Yeah,
interesting. Mhm.
it's we were discussing the Celtics before the pod. A team would be an amazing series. A team will just slug it out. Against the Heat would be the same. It would be intense series right there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not easy. If this it finished like this, oh, without the plans, the Sixers getting the Heat would be not ideal. That the getting the Heat in the first round, by the way.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't think the Sixers want that. I think if the Heat are in the play, I think they're really hoping that the Heat drop to 8. You know,
get the Bucks. Oof, that's an oof.
yeah, that's what the Sixers want. I'm
It's,
saying, because they would rather get Atlanta. I would imagine.
yeah, everyone right now wants the Nets. By the way, the Nets are the team they want.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? Somebody posted that. They're like, oh yeah, that means we're up now. See, they're afraid to play us. Like, no, no one respects the Nets because they don't have a superstar. They're just a scrappy team and they haven't really won a bunch of games since the trade. So
They were
obviously you
they
want to play the
were
Nets.
yeah. They're 5-5 last 10.
Yeah, they're just an average
W
team.
weren't they the fourth seed? Uh, uh, right behind the
They
Celtics. I
were,
think
yeah,
they were before the trades.
right
Yeah,
before all the trades, yeah. And then
they
they've been
dropped
losing.
2 places.
Yeah, they've been losing, and Knicks have been winning, Cavs have been winning. So, that's what happens. But that is
Yeah.
gonna wrap us up for another episode of the Worldwide Knicks podcast. Down one man. Alex will be back next week. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at WW Knicks Podcast, where we tweet about the games and all the other happenings around the New York Knicks. Also, be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications on YouTube and on Spotify so that you know whenever a new episode drops. On behalf of Rafa, this is Omar, Worldwide Knicks, and we will catch you guys next time.